was one of those nights in Toronto when the air itself felt heavy. Early 90s. The kind of summer heat that settles over the city and refuses to leave. Sticky, humid. The kind of night where every breath feels thick and every surface is warm to the touch. Inside the arena, the temperature was even worse. Thousands of bodies packed together. Lights, smoke, anticipation rising like steam. The show was called Operation Rock and Roll, a big package tour. Several bands. Loud, heavy, the kind of night that promised pure metal from start to finish. And at the top of the bill was Judas Priest. By the time the stage was cleared for the headliners, the crowd was already restless. People were shouting. Whistles cut through the thick air. Someone near the front kept yelling for Painkiller. Someone else kept screaming for Breaking the Law. The heat made everyone louder, more impatient, more ready. Then the lights dropped. A low roar of engines filled the speakers. The familiar opening of Heading Out on the Highway began to roll out across the arena. The crowd erupted. Fists went up. The stage was still dark except for a single beam of white light cutting through the haze. And there he was, Rob Halford. Leather, studs, the full look, sitting astride a real motorcycle. The engine was running. You could hear it over the music for a second. He twisted the throttle once, twice. The sound bounced off the walls. Then he started rolling forward, slow and deliberate, heading up the ramp that led onto the stage. The band was already locked in. The riff was huge. The drums were pounding. Everything was building exactly the way it was supposed to. Halford kept coming. The motorcycle climbed the ramp. Headlights cut through the smoke. He was almost at the top when it happened. There was an errant stage hanger, a piece of rigging that should not have been there. Something low, something hard, something no one noticed in the chaos of the changeover. Halford's head struck it clean. The sound was sharp even over the music. A solid, sickening crack. For a second, everything seemed to freeze. Then his body went limp. The motorcycle kept moving. He slid sideways off the seat and hit the stage floor hard. The bike continued forward on its own, engine still growling, and smashed straight into the drum kit in slow motion. Cymbals exploded. The kit shifted. One of the toms rolled off its stand and tumbled toward the edge of the stage. The band kept playing. They did not stop. The riff kept going. The bass kept driving. The drums tried to hold the pattern even as the kit was half destroyed. It was surreal. Halford was flat on his back, not moving. The motorcycle was still coughing and sputtering against the ruined drums. And the song continued as if nothing had happened. Roadies exploded from the wings. Black shirts, headsets, panic in every step. They swarmed the stage. One of them kicked the motorcycle out of the way. Another dropped to his knees beside Halford. Someone was yelling for the lights. Someone else was waving frantically at the side of the stage. The crowd noise changed. The cheers turned into a confused roar. People near the front were pointing. Some were laughing because they thought it was part of the show. Others had gone quiet. It took almost a full minute before anyone got smelling salts under Halford's nose. He jerked, hard, like someone pulling him back from a long way down. His eyes opened. He looked around, dazed, leather jacket twisted under him. One of the roadies helped him sit up. Another wiped something from his forehead. Blood. Not a lot, but enough. The band never stopped. They finished the song. Then they went straight into the next one. And the next. Halford stood. He took the microphone. His voice was a little rough at first, but it found its power fast. The set continued. Full length. No cuts. No apologies. No jokes about what had just happened. They played like the machine they had always been. Tight. Aggressive. Relentless. The crowd fed on it. Whatever confusion had been there earlier burned away under the volume. People sang every word. Arms stayed in the air. The heat in the building became almost unbearable, but no one cared. It was one of those nights where the music swallowed everything else. The accident, the blood, the twisted motorcycle still sitting off to the side of the stage. None of it mattered once the songs took over. They closed the set the way they always did. Loud, triumphant. Halford raised a fist. The lights flared. The final chords rang out, and then cut to black. The band walked off without a single word about the fall. No mention, no acknowledgement, nothing. A few days later the news came quietly. Judas Priest was done. The band was breaking up. Official statements. Careful language. The usual phrases about needing time and new directions. No one ever connected it publicly to that night in Toronto. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe the fall was only one more crack in something that had already been shifting for a long time. No one outside the inner circle really knew. But the people who were there that night still talk about it the same way. The heat, the sticky air, the motorcycle rolling up the ramp, the sudden stop, the body hitting the floor, the band refusing to break stride, and Rob Halford standing back up, smelling salts still sharp in the air, and delivering a full set as if nothing in the world could stop the machine. That was Operation Rock and Roll in Toronto, early 90s. One of those nights that felt bigger than the music itself. A night that ended with a great set, and a quiet ending no one saw coming. It was the winter of either 2000 or 2001. I cannot remember the exact year anymore, but I remember everything else. I was still in college. A group of us had scored free tickets to see Fuel at Club Lager in Pittsburgh because we had pre-ordered their album Something Like Human. That was the deal. Buy the record early, get into the show for nothing. We thought we were geniuses. Club Lager sat on the edge of Oakland, close enough to the universities that the place always felt half student, half local. On a normal night, it was already tight. On this night, it was something else entirely. Packed, not just crowded. Packed in the way that made you wonder how the fire marshal had not shut the doors. Bodies pressed against bodies. No empty floor space. No clear path to the bar. Just a solid mass of people breathing the same hot air. The moment we pushed inside, the temperature hit us like a wall. Outside it was Pittsburgh winter. Cold. Damp. The kind of cold that gets into your bones. Inside it was tropical. Sweat was already running down walls and necks and the backs of shirts. The air smelled like beer and damp wool, and too many people who had been standing for hours. The lights were low. The stage was small. The speakers were already thumping with the opening act, but nobody really cared. Everyone was waiting for Fuel. When the band finally walked out, the whole room moved as one. It was not dancing so much as controlled chaos. People jumped and the floor barely gave. You could push off with both feet and stay in the air for what felt like 5 or 10 full seconds before gravity pulled you back down into the sea of shoulders. Every landing was soft because there was nowhere solid to land. You just sank into other people. And every person was already soaked. Sweat mixed with sweat. Somebody else's hair stuck to your cheek. Somebody else's jacket sleeve rubbed across your arm. By the third song, nobody cared whose moisture was whose. That is when I first noticed the girl. She was right in the middle of the floor, wearing the baggiest jeans I had ever seen and an oversized sweater that looked gray or maybe silver under the stage lights. The sweater hung almost to her knees. Her hair was stuck to her face. She was completely gone, blitzed on something that had nothing to do with the $2 beers they were selling at the bar. Her eyes were wide and empty. Her mouth kept opening and closing like she was trying to sing, but the words never came out right. She decided she needed to crowd surf. The first time the crowd lifted her, it was almost accidental. Hands went up. Body shifted. Suddenly, she was floating above the room, arms and legs flailing with zero control. One of her chunky boots swung wild and caught my wife square in the face. Not a glancing blow, a solid kick. My wife's head snapped back. She blinked hard, wiped at her cheek, looked up just in time to see the same boot come around again. The crowd dropped the girl once. She hit the floor hard between a dozen pairs of feet, scrambled up laughing, and immediately tried to climb back into the air. No one stopped her. In a room that dense, there was no stopping anyone. She went up again. This time an elbow or a knee or some uncontrolled part of her body slammed into my wife's shoulder and then her jaw. My wife had had enough. She turned, found the girl's flailing form still half supported by the crowd, and hit her. Hard. A clean, deliberate shot that cut through the noise and the sweat and the music. I saw the girl's head rock. I saw her body go slack for half a second. Then the hands that had been holding her up let go and she disappeared back into the floor. That was the last time she tried to crowd surf near us. The rest of the set kept going. Fuel played loud and tight. The room never cooled down. We stayed pressed together until the final encore ended and the house lights came up like a rude awakening. People started pushing toward the exits in slow waves. The air outside hit us like a slap. Real winter air. Sharp and clean after 2 hours of recycled human heat. We were halfway down the sidewalk when I saw her again. The girl from the pit. She had no shoes. One sleeve of the oversized sweater was completely gone, torn away somewhere in the chaos. There was vomit down the front of what remained of the sweater and across her chest. And she had 2 black eyes already darkening, the kind that come from a solid punch and not from a random elbow in a crowd. She was walking barefoot on the cold Pittsburgh concrete, weaving a little, staring at nothing. I watched her for a few seconds longer than I needed to. Then we turned the corner and she was gone. It has been at least 25 years. My wife is now my ex-wife. Most of the friends from that night have scattered. The club itself has changed hands more than once. But I still think about that girl sometimes. I wonder how long it took her to get home. I wonder if anyone ever found her shoes. And I wonder what the morning after felt like when the high finally burned off and the cold and the bruises and the missing sleeve and the taste of her own puke all arrived at once. Somewhere in Pittsburgh that winter, one person had the worst hangover of her life. And for a few minutes inside Club Laga, on a night that was already too hot and too loud and too full of people, she and my wife wrote a small, violent chapter that neither of them will ever forget, even if only one of them still tells the story. I was 14 years old the second time I saw The Who. It was 1976 at the Seattle Coliseum. I still remember the exact seats. We were up in the first bank of seats off the main floor, near the center. Close enough to feel the bass in our chests. High enough to see the entire floor from front to back before the lights went down. The place was already loud with people finding their spots, shouting, laughing, passing things back and forth. The air smelled like cigarettes and spilled beer and winter coats that had just come in from the cold. I was looking out over the crowd when it happened. For absolutely no reason, a guy toward the rear of the floor stood up. He cocked his arm and threw a baseball as hard as he could toward the front of the arena. Just a white blur cutting through the space above thousands of heads. At the exact same moment, a girl near the front turned around to look behind her. The baseball hit her square in the face. Blood exploded. It was instant and bright under the house lights. She went down hard, completely out. Her boyfriend and the people around her dropped to the floor and grabbed her. You could see they knew it was bad. Hands were on her face. on her shoulders, trying to keep her still. Someone was already shouting for help. The whole front section seemed to freeze for a second while the rest of the arena kept moving, not yet understanding what had just happened. The people standing next to the guy who threw the ball saw everything. They did not wait. They jumped him right there on the floor. Fists, boots, bodies piling on. It was not a clean fight. It was pure reaction. They beat the shit out of him while the girl was still unconscious 100 feet away. Security finally pushed through, but by then the damage on both sides was done. The baseball was gone. The thrower was gone. The girl was carried out. And the show eventually started as if the Coliseum had not just watched a random act of violence unfold in real time. I never forgot it. Even now, all these years later, it still feels like it happened yesterday. The white flash of the ball, the perfect, terrible timing of her turning, the sudden red, the sound of the beating that followed. 14 years old and already learning that a rock concert could turn into something else in the space of a single heartbeat. 7 years later, I was in San Francisco for the ARMS concert at the Cow Palace. 1983. A big benefit show. Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, Joe Cocker, and Jimmy Page. The crowd that night started out restrained, almost respectful. People listened. They clapped at the right times. They stayed in their seats for the most part. It was not yet the era when everything old was automatically called classic rock. These were still living gods sharing a stage, and the audience seemed to understand that. Then Jimmy Page walked out. He played some of his solo material first. Quiet, careful, noodling his way through the songs while the arena stayed polite. You could feel the patience in the room. Everyone was waiting. Everyone knew what they wanted. When the roadie finally handed him the SG-1275 double neck, the entire building shifted. You could hear the collective intake of breath. Page settled the guitar against his body, found the neck, and hit the first notes of Stairway to Heaven. The place erupted. It was not applause. It was not cheering. It was a detonation. People dove over chairs. Entire rows emptied in seconds. Bodies poured toward the stage like water, finding the lowest point. The first 3 rows disappeared under a wave of humans trying to get as close as possible to the man holding that double neck. It felt like the entire Cow Palace had been compressed into the space right in front of the monitors. Hands in the air. Voices screaming the words before the vocals even started. The polite audience was gone. In its place was pure worship. I remember the sound of the chairs scraping and tipping. I remember the sudden heat of so many people moving at once. I remember looking at Page and wondering if even he was surprised by the force of it. The hammer of the gods had only needed 4 notes to turn a respectful crowd into something ancient and hungry. 2 different nights, 2 different coasts, 2 moments that still sit in my head with the same sharp edges they had when they happened. A baseball thrown for no reason in Seattle. A double-neck guitar lifted in San Francisco. One left blood on the floor. The other left the floor itself empty as thousands of people tried to reach the stage. Both of them proved the same thing to me. A concert is never only about the music. It is also about the sudden, unpredictable ways a room full of strangers can change in an instant. And once you have seen it, you carry it with you for the rest of your life.